Can you really transform a company with AI within 12 months?
The challenge is that we are trying to transform the system and make it more human.
We have to make sure that we deliver something that they can test and provides value.
But the real key to that is being able to deliver value to the client and then also being able to measure and demonstrate that value that you're creating.
Welcome to the Capably podcast, where we explore mostly how AI is changing the way we all work. In the episode today, we're going to talk about something very important, which is how to actually bring AI into companies and transform them. I'm Rafa, one of the founders and CEO of the company. And with me today, I have Sam, who's leading the partnerships and the growth department, Moni, who is leading product design, and then Noza, who is doing a lot of the stuff on the customer side. We're going to cover a few topics. We'll start from kind of what it takes to design a product, then bring this product into the market, and then how to engage with customers in a way that is really, really, really useful to them. Starting from product design, it is very difficult to design products when there's such a high level of uncertainty. So what's your take on this, Moni?
Yeah, well, eventually one of the biggest challenges here is that we design with a lot of uncertainty because previously we had all these UX laws that were established. There were some rules that you followed, and right now, like, we are living in a new world that it's moving really fast, and with it is all the product design and all the things that we used to have design patterns that we followed, and right now that's changing. So a big part of the design process becomes experimenting, and it's also a lot of testing. And we stopped like designing screens. We are now like designing behaviors, systems. So we're constantly testing ideas, learning from how users interact, their behavior, and yeah, like uncertainty at the end becomes part of the design process. We also have like this part when we are actually learning from users, but you become the user as well because it's so new, everything. So I guess it's just part of this new reality that we are all living.
And does that mean that, like, because there is a lot of kind of chat-based interface, right, around most AI products. So it's like when we're thinking about these new processes for designing products, is that the starting point? Like, we think about like kind of just talking like a natural way to the AI, is like, or is it like we look at the whole kind of task that we want to help with, and then we're trying to build an experience with a whole new process that is like quite different from before? Because we see a lot of chats, and I think sometimes it's kind of the easy way out, like you just put a chat and then, but sometimes it's quite frustrating for the user, right? So how are we thinking about the design process and some of the new patterns that are like now very popular?
Well, in all this chat experience, for example, I believe that trust is one of the core principles that we need to follow, because we expect the user to trust the AI, and if they don't trust it, they don't use it. So I believe that trust becomes something really, really important. It's actually, the challenge is that we are trying to, in a way, transform the system and make it more human, because at the end you want a companion that is there with you. We don't want people to like think they are interacting with a black box, right? They want feedback, they want visibility, they want to feel that they have the whole control of the outcomes. So I believe that trust is the core principle right now. And I think also, for example, from a customer success experience, like we're building all this trust, like, but then how is that trust also following up with you, with the clients, right? To make them feel like the AI is a new world. So how do you make them see that things are working in the right direction and that actually this stuff is real, right?
So we think that the key is the first 6 weeks. Every time we work with a new client, we spend a few weeks building a bespoke process for them. Those first 6 weeks, we have to make sure that we deliver something that they can test and provides value. Obviously, it can happen that we're not answering or we're not providing what they expect. But the idea of those 6 weeks is that we iterate over what we're building, taking into account their feedback. Because through this process, we try to be super close to the client, having weekly sessions, direct communication channels. Part of this process includes working with FDEs, which is a key part of the success also for building that trust.
When designing a product like this, trust is very important, as in it's such a new technology and we're asking them to change the way they work, right? So you put something in front of them. If that product doesn't deliver, then it's going to be a big question mark. Like, is this mature enough for me to change the way I work, right? And from the customer perspective, I think we have an initial window that, normally is, we say internally the first 6 weeks, but is that window of opportunity almost to kind of build the trust, like human to human, right? Like just making sure that like in that journey where like they are starting their transformation, they're thinking out, like they're looking at software in a slightly different way, from tools to something else. And then that needs to be kind of connected to the product and how it's designed. And then it needs to, and I think what is quite interesting is like those things are like connected, right? Like, so we learn a lot from them in this initial period where like we kind of kickstart the process, but that kind of like improves the product that actually makes that process a lot easier.
Exactly.
Right? So I think the role of FDEs is very important, right? So maybe you can tell us more about like how FDEs are like now part of customer success onboarding and everything else.
So nowadays you need additional skills compared to the ones that the traditional customer success manager has. And so the FDEs provide this technical angle when trying to approach a new process with a client. So we make sure that we understand how everything works internally, from their needs, pains, databases, integrations. So we, both customer success and the FDs, assist the client when they're building the capabilities through the platform.
Yeah, I think what is interesting is so there are like two different levels, right? And we spend a lot of time with Noza like discussing how customer success that unit like should look like for this AI era, right? I think there's one part that is like kind of the transformational phase where one of the questions that we get is like they just don't know where to put AI. So let's say that we design the best product, there's still some sort of hand-holding initial kind of like, I was like, you need to push them to start doing things, right? So our customer success managers, they think more as AI evangelists, where like they kind of educate them, teach them, they kind of bring the know-how and the expertise. And then the role of the FDE is kind of almost removing whatever technical kind of friction there might be. And that kind of empowers the role of the AI evangelist, the customer success manager, which is quite interesting because very often we have to do things for the first time. So things like, MCP and all these different protocols, they're like quite new, but they work quite well. In an enterprise environment, you have to deal with a lot of custom data sources, old legacy systems, right? So having FDEs are quite important, and they kind of like develop some new stuff that like we can reuse and we can learn from it. And I think that's the connection with product design, right? There's a lot of know-how that we build there that we can transfer over the product design that then provides a product that it has even like more trust built in, and then that helps that initial conversation, those initial 6 weeks. At the end of the day, the goal that we have after that initial 6-week period is to have our technology deployed and ready for anyone in the company to really start delegating in a very easy way. But without the trust and without the initial process, it is very difficult to get to that point. And that's the opportunity window that I was referring to. So I think that kind of like it's all linked. And I agree, kind of trust is like one of the core things that you need to develop almost into the product design process, right?
Yes, in many ways, like designing AI products is not just about making them smarter. It's about making them reliable and predictable, because we need to make feel the users that they are confident enough to actually use them, so that like we engage them, and that's the level of trust that we want to actually deliver.
perhaps we look at like what comes after designing the product, which is an ongoing process, right? Like I think you still need to package these and kind of bring these into the market. And I think that like there's been many changes in that area as well, right? We've seen a lot of automation, new roles like go to market engineer. Like there's a lot of things going on there. So maybe we can just try to think of like in our experience how we're seeing that kind of sales process or like go to market process like changing and Sam, what's your experience here?
Yeah, I think as you touched on, it's very noisy out there, and I think traditional channels of go to market are proving to be less effective. There's a lot of tools and products that are doing a lot of outreach and contributing to that noise, and so I think going back to your point around the importance of trust is that building trust in the market is now more important than ever, and finding new ways to connect in with the market as well. And one approach that we're going through is with our brand ambassador program, which is a top-down strategy where we're looking to connect with industry leaders within the space and really leveraging their experience and their networks to really support the go-to-market activities that we're doing.
It's interesting, right? Because not everything is product. Or like I think you can have a very good product, but like without knowing where to put AI, like bringing that expertise, you're still missing that part that is super important when you're trying to transform a client, right? The brand ambassador program, this been something that like we're scratching our heads for a while because last year we were doing a lot of outreach and traditional kind of B2B playbook, and we saw that that playbook wasn't working that well. Like open rates were like down and like things weren't, and it's because it's very noisy out there, right? So we almost look at like Nike and kind of the athletes and like how they were just trying to leverage uh, others' credibility, athletes' credibility to kind of like put their products out there and inspire change and inspire their clients to kind of change themselves, right? So with that in mind, we thought, what if we kind of bring these athletes that for us are professionals, C-level or heads or PPs that they've been operating in an industry for a long time, and they really know a lot about how to build those businesses, but they might not know a lot about AI and what the technology can do. So like doing these partnerships and spending a lot of time with them trying to figure out like what to build, how to build it, it kind of like brought a lot of trust into the process, customer benefit, like sales benefit, product design benefits. Like we all kind of get this extra superpower because we kind of connect the dots. It's not only about technology, it's about like knowing where to put the technology. On top of that, I think it really helps when those ambassadors do their ambassador role and they recommend you because you start the conversation with a lot of trust because somebody who's an expert is already recommending you, and it's a way to break through the noise, and I think it's been working really well for us, right? And I think that's it's very interesting these space. I think everybody's kind of like challenged and are trying to figure out and in marketing in many ways, but that was quite an interesting initiative that we put in place. Maybe we can touch before we talk more about how to transform customers. Maybe in terms of like packaging these and almost like pricing these, it's such a like huge challenge as well, right? So, Sam, in your experience, how have you seen pricing evolving almost like in the last few months?
So I think something we've been moving towards is this value-based pricing where you're really able, the benefit of that is being able to align the different interests of the parties. So you're both benefiting in the value that you're creating and, the value of being able to demonstrate value creation and then attribute that to the product that you're delivering to your customers. And I think, we've seen with traditional SaaS models that you can generally sort of share in up to 20% of that value that's created. Whereas what we're seeing in AI is that you can share in a lot more of that. But the real key to that is being able to deliver value to the client and then also being able to measure and demonstrate that value that you're creating.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to measure it, as in like most people tend to think of kind of cost reduction and like the time that you save, but there is a lot more that goes into the value that we provide, right? Is very often, allowing them to grow more revenue or kind of something that they couldn't even do before now. So how to measure those things is still an evolving conversation, but I think that's the right way to look at it, and I think that's how software is gonna be priced probably in the future. It kind of makes sense for what we do for sure, and for the space and AI. I think as well, right? Um, Going back to the customer stuff. So when we thinking about like kind of the secret sauce for adoption, I think everybody is now thinking, great, this is good. We do like a pilot and this kind of works, but then difficult to scale. Then people don't use it. Then you have users that like kind of like they challenge it a bit because it's almost like removing part of their
Yeah.
job, and there is like change, right? So um so what we say are like the key things that we learn in the
Yeah,
process.
so first, this is a completely challenging thing. Actually, companies like Accenture, they've just acquired an AI company, and they're even struggling with the adoption internally, and they're linking the bonuses and promotions to the usage of AI, which means that they're struggling there. So there are a few things that we've seen during these months. First is that this is something that goes top down. So the leadership team has to acknowledge that this is important for them and make sure that they put some money and someone on top of this. Then at the same time, it's something that goes bottom up, which means that it doesn't make sense if you put some money, you buy a product and you think that it will be enough. No, the answer is that someone that is suffering that pain on a daily basis has to be involved in this process, because this person is going to help us to make sure that we deliver the right tool, the right use case, the right workflow. And finally, the last thing is that if you want to deploy AI into a company, an out-of-the-box solution doesn't work. You have to provide something that is specific for them, and same use case across different companies. It works different. The inputs are different. The outputs are different. And things that happen in between are also different. Those three things are key for success.
And I think that is like kind of the challenge. So you need get the top management excited so they kind of see this as a reality. Then the bottom up is you need to build the right trust with users, and they kind of like need to see it working for real. And then also for them, right? Not just any solution, right? Like and that's where the magic happens, when those three things come together. Cool. We'll close with a rapid fire. 3 questions, quick answers. First one is, should every AI product have a chat interface? Moni?
No.
No?
No.
No? Okay. Everything no?
Yes.
Yes?
But it shouldn't be the main interface, but every user expects a chat interface.
Sometimes depending on what you want to do, you might not need to have that like real life conversation type of feeling, right? It's more like you just need something done and it needs to be done. It's good point. Second thing, what about like failed pilots? Are those like most of the time tech problems or people problems?
People.
People? Are we blaming people? Or blaming people?
Blaming people.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like there's a lot that you can do with technology, but like at the end of the day, like you need people to change. Right?
Maybe 1 year ago, we could say technology, but nowadays it's people.
Yeah, I think it feels like it's good enough, not for everything, but it can change many things, and we see these with what we do, right? But like people, just the transformational aspect is quite important. Okay, last one. Can you really transform a company with AI within 12 months?
Yes.
Yeah, we're there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting because this same question 6 months ago would probably be like, probably not. But things change quickly. And I think by transforming, what we really mean is having a meaningful impact on the way they work, and kind of like giving them the extra space to their employees to really be a lot more productive and increase productivity. And I think it comes down to removing work that like they shouldn't do in the first place, and then for the stuff that they focus on, just giving them the best intelligence that you can as a company. I think now we're quite there, and we're very excited about like doing this with the clients. It's been a great conversation. Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts, and thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next one.